It's kind of at a different time for us, hopefully a little bit of a European-friendly time, but I think we're going to get a lot of viewers listening to this recording after the fact as it gets posted up on YouTube and is listened to by many of the folks just now waking up here in the United States. Good day, good evening, good morning to everyone here. This week, we're joined by a special guest from Contango. Donabam, welcome to the Rocket Pool Community Call.
Thank you for hosting.
Excellent. And are there going to be any other guests joining you on today's call?
There's also Mitch. Not sure if he has some input. I guess he can jump in. But I just saw that he left the call, so I guess that's only me.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. It's great to have you on the call. First, maybe you want to introduce yourself to the community, and then I'll ask you a little bit about Contango.
Yes. So my name is Kamel on Discord. I'm under the Badabam name. I'm one of the co-founder at Contango. We started Contango 3 years ago. And we bring looping on chain. Indeed, I believe we're the most advanced loop tool you can find. And I'm happy to expand a bit more on what is looping if you want to take this direction.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Let's start about that. I keep hearing it referred to a little bit in the DeFi infrastructure, but tell me a little bit about it and what does Contango do to kind of help in the looping process?
Of course. So I'm going to make it like Rocket Pool specific. So obviously everybody knows that rETH has an intrinsic, or let's call it a bearing rate, which is basically like an interest that you get as a holder of the token. And what you can do is to borrow ETH, and as long as the interest rate on borrowing your ETH is lower than the bearing rate, then you can start to earn the bearing rate from Rocket Pool on leverage, and what you will earn is the difference between the bearing rate and the borrowing rate, like as a general approach. Then I can enter into the mechanics on how it works if you want to.
Yeah, let me just make certain I'm following on that first one. So, rETH is a liquid staking token, right? It earns native rewards and the value accrues. So, what would a person that wants to acquire that leverage with Contango do? They would simply deposit rETH, borrow ETH, and then do they have to manually then convert the borrowed ETH back into rETH to do the looping, or is it an automatic process?
Yeah, excellent. So I think you've described what we call manual looping. So it's like this recursive borrowing and lending on the money market. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it will be like simply to automate all the loops. Like, I don't know, for example, to get like 5 to 6x exposure, you would have to create 12 loops, manual loops. But what we do is that we automate all this process through flash loans. So this way we can make all the steps in only one transaction. How it works generally is that you as a trader, you bring some collateral. So like, for example, let's say you bring rETH, then what the protocol is gonna do is to flash loan the remaining rETH. So then you have like a big amount as collateral, then borrow ETH against this collateral, swap those ETH for rETH, either on a spot swap market such as Uniswap, or by directly staking on Rocket Pool. And then when you get rETH, we reimburse the flash loan. And when you do that, basically you end up with a position which is strictly similar to automated looping or manual looping.
And how is thank you very much for that explanation. That very helps clarify it. But how is the borrow APY set? Is that variable or is that fixed in the looping process?
The biggest markets you have at the moment are definitely variable markets, right? I can get into the fixed rate later, but like usually what you would have is arrays being listed on Compound, Moodwell, like Morpho, or even Aave. So if I go right now on the UI of Contango into the simplified screen, I can see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 options that will give me an ROE above 10% by entering leverage positions. What's interesting in the construction with Contango is that you can have multiple rewards from the underlying chain. So if I look at the most lucrative one that gives me at least 10% RE, I can find rETH on Compound V3 on OP mainnet. There we get like 6.5% being the difference between the borrowing and the bearing rate. And I will also get like 20% in comp and OP incentives. So I took this specific example because you can see like the full potential in Contango is not only about the bearing rate and the borrowing rate, but it's also about all the incentives. If I look at this opportunity, so it's OP mainnet on Compound. So yeah, the borrowing rate on ETH is 2.08%, and the bearing rate on Rocket ETH is 2.53%. So you almost have like 0.5% that you can leverage up.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I never really kind of thought of it that way, that not only in the looping process can you exploit or take advantage of the difference between the bearing rate, that's what the LST token natively earns, right? And then the borrowing rate, what it costs to borrow against it. But by doing it on other layer twos or with other, borrowing through another DeFi protocol like Compound, that allows for additional awards, either in OP incentive awards or in the lending protocol rewards. Is that what gives that additional boost in that overall return example that you described?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or like we had like, for example, LP or Arbitrum campaigns, or even like super fast campaigns on base. And what happened during like those times is that a lot of people loop through the specific chains to get those rewards. And the interesting part on especially like this LST ETH loop is that it's like sticky TVL, meaning that when people enter a position, usually they keep it open for a while. For reasons, especially like around slippage and fees, you need to have this position open for several months for you to be profitable.
Interesting. And then, so you've described kind of what the benefits are for doing kind of that looping, right? Especially the automated looping using Contango. But what are some of the risks that a person considering using this approach should be aware of?
Yeah, of course. So I think there are different risks. Like on top of my head, obviously, like if you're not using an exchange rate or a fundamental oracle, then it means that you're exposed to the market price risk, meaning if there is a depeg between rETH and ETH, you can get liquidated. And that's a risk on the money market itself. That's number one. The second reason for which you can get liquidated, which is not exclusive from the first reason, is that your borrowing rate comes way higher than the bearing rate on rETH, and hence your borrowing cost is going to eat up your margin. So that's like the risk for which usually you can get liquidated directly like on the money market. So Contango does not carry any liquidations. All the liquidations occur on the underlying money market. Then you have to factor the smart contract risks, both from the underlying money market and Contango smart contracts. You also have to take into account the slippage. For example, when you exit a position, if everybody is trying to exit at the same time, then yeah, obviously there could be like a depeg of rETH, but maybe also like the liquidity is like thinner, and hence you can have a biggest market impact, and hence this could reduce your profit or increase your losses. And then like there are other risks that I can get into details by opening our docs, but I think that's the main ones.
Sure. Let me just ask a follow-up question on one of those. So you mentioned there are kind of two fundamental ones. One is if the two assets, the asset you use to as collateral, and then the asset you borrow against. So in this case, rETH and ETH, if there's a decoupling there, right? And not investment advice or any prediction of the future, but there's been strong correlation, between the price of ETH and the price of rETH, because they're kind of ingrained assets of each other, right? One is just a liquid staking token of the other one. But the second one you mentioned was the degree or delta difference between the bearing rate and the borrowing rate. How quickly does the bearing rate is somewhat steady, right? It's based on staking rewards. Those are quite predictable and I don't want to say constant, but pretty linear in their action, because there's so many people staking, they change very, very slowly. But what about the borrowing rate? How quickly does that change in the protocol?
It really depends on the underlying money market you use. And basically it really depends on the liquidity. So like the borrowing rate on the money market is a function of several parameters, but mainly like the liquidity. So obviously if you have a lot of ETH available to be borrowed, then your borrowing rate will be lower. And indeed, like it would be more stable, because whatever people try to borrow against those ETH available, it will not change much to the rate. And this is something we have observed quite good on, for example, Aave. So I would say like on something like Aave, you can go on the Aave front end and check the history of ETH borrowing, and you will see it's pretty stable. And indeed, like on Contango protocol, like the biggest positions we have are usually like LST LRTs on ETH. So it means that the borrowed asset there is usually like ETH. But then if you go like on a protocol where you have like isolated pools, and you also have like newer protocols or protocols with lower liquidity, then of course it means that each time someone borrows a big quantity of ETH, then your borrowing rate can spike. Or when someone withdraws their ETH as an LP, then also the borrowing rate can spike.
Yeah, perfect. And then with the Contango protocol here, is there any lockup? Meaning, if one of those events happen that causes an adverse difference in the delta between the bearing and the borrowing rate, can a person that's participating in Contango, can they unwind their position, or is there some cool off period?
There is no cool-off period on our site. The user can do whatever they want with their position at whatever time. Um, the only thing you need to be careful is like if you have a big position, is you have to be careful about the market risk. meaning like make sure to check the liquidity available on the spot market to reduce like slippage and market impact. And so far, besides like very isolated case on the money market, you never had any restriction to close your position. And as a worst case in Contango, we also have features where you're able to reimburse your debt if you have extra money on the side to free up your collateral and hence close your position. So you can always close your position unless the money market itself is frozen, but it's not related to Contango.
Excellent. And then just one more other technical question is when a user is using Contango, can they select the degree of looping or the leverage factor that they want to participate in, or is that just predetermined somehow?
Yeah. Just confirming the obvious. I guess here it's only an audio call and I do not have a way to share my screen, right? Or do
Correct,
I?
correct, yeah.
Oh, I can share my screen. Let me try.
Yeah, go for it. It will help the folks that are uh, participating live here. Go for it. But maybe also give an audio description as well, because the YouTube recording will just be audio.
Okay. Let me try. Yeah, no, I would have to quit and reopen my window if I want to share screen. No, so there are two modes on Contango. There is a simplified one and there is an advanced one. When you look at the simplified mode, it's like very easy cards that give you like the area at maximum leverage, and you can get into the position, and of course like the maximum leverage is selected, but you can always decrease your leverage by playing with the slider leverage. And on the advanced screen, you have ever more granularity or flexibility, and in any case, you're always able to choose your desired leverage. You can enter with both the base and the quad currency, meaning that the margin that you have to put could be in rETH or ETH, and we also offer you the option to bring any currency. So then you have like full control, like how much margin you put, what is your position size, the amount of leverage, and obviously we offer you different selection of money markets, chains, and assets.
Oh, excellent. You mentioned that you're currently supporting the ETH rETH pairs in there. Are there any other pairs that you support?
Yes. The most obvious pair at the moment is well, you can see my screen, right?
That's a good question. I think I have to click and join the channel here. 1 second here. I'm in trading. Bear with me. Yep, I see the stream here. Yep.
Okay, awesome. So indeed, like if I go into that's the advanced, sorry, that's the simplified screen I was talking about. So indeed, you can see here you have like all the different rETH flavors on different money markets and different chains, and you have an idea of the ROE where like rewards are included, and if you want to see like purely without any rewards the ROE, then you have to deselect that, and you can see that on Morpho, for example, you can make 18.77% at almost 13x leverage. Now to better answer your question here, if I come and I put rETH, I will see that I have a lot of different options. You can like, for example, enter into a position like a perp. So here I have selected rETH USDC, and courtesy of the money market on how the construction of the perps are created, you can see here that at 2x leverage, for example, I would get paid almost 9%. It's very interesting because usually you do pay a funding rate to enter into a leveraged position on, let's say, ETH USD. Whereas here you see that even if the borrowing rate is 4.5% and the borrowing rate is 2.50, then you get like also all the extra into the OP incentives and a 2x leverage because you're borrowing much less than what you're lending, you will still get paid 0.5% yearly. So yeah, that's the biggest use case I can see outside looping is like really like the vanilla rETH USD play, and we offer like different flavors on that. And you can have also like the loops rETH again WSTEs directly. You can also use rETH as a quad currency. So this is why like I don't know, you have an Ether.fi ETH against Rocket Pool ETH. And yeah, that gives you a good overview of what you can achieve through our interface.
Excellent. Are there any other things that Contango can do for the Rocket Pool community that we haven't had a chance yet to cover in today's call?
So I don't know how much Contango is known inside the Rocket Pool community, but it's very interesting that there is such a difference of open interest on Contango between Rocket Pool ETH and WST ETH, like the Lido one. So I would be super curious to hear the community to understand why we think there is such a difference between the two protocols when we're talking about looping.
Yeah, that's a really good question you raised there. And I don't know. It is interesting in that Rocket Pool has really maybe two sets of stakeholders, if I use that term correctly here. One set of folks that might be more dominant in today's call are actually the node operators, individuals that run the staking nodes and provide kind of the consensus mechanism to Ethereum and earn the rewards with a small percentage of a commission going back to the node operator. While most of the commission goes to the liquid staking token holders. And I actually don't know how many of those we certainly start emphasizing, focusing on the DeFi integrations of the ARC token. But I actually don't know how many of those actually, join in community calls and so forth. But see if I understand your question here, that you're seeing a kind of difference in usage. Are the wrapped STETH usage, are they using more of Contango and the looping mechanisms to kind of leverage yield versus rETH holders?
Yeah, so WSTEs and rETH have like quite similar loops and similar like products. Like when you look at Contango and you see like Rocket Pool at like maybe maximum 5 billions of open interest, but when you go to WSTEs, it's like certainly like maybe 20 to 30 times bigger. Yeah, we're super curious to try to understand why there's such a gap. And is it really because like Contango is not better known in the community, or is there any other factors influencing that? So yeah, it would be super interesting to get the thoughts of the community on this.
Yeah, it's something I'd certainly encourage you to kind of ping various members of the community here and um, try to understand that. Those are excellent questions, and I don't even suppose to guess or opine on it. I know Contago for me was certainly a new protocol, but I'm just an N of one in a very large number of LST holders. So, certainly I'm highly biased just from my own perspective. But it does seem like there's a really good opportunity to maybe grow the usage of the protocol by our ETH holders.
Yeah, of course. So I also am quite like grateful for this call because I'm happy to explain more about Contango and to answer any questions. I believe the LST loop is like something that is at the end quite recent, right? Like we had to wait for Ethereum to go proof of stake for this to be like big. But yeah, we see a lot of different loops now. The main one is always the ETH one.
If individuals listening to this call on YouTube want to get a hold of you, what's the best way that they could either first learn more about Contango, and then second, how can they find you and get a hold of you to ask any follow-up questions or provide their input as to why the data might reflect that our ETH holders are using the looping mechanism less?
Of course, so contango.xyz is the main website. From there, you would have a launch button to the app, which is app.contango.xyz. If you need like more information on the main page, you have a link to our docs. We spend a lot of time to keep them up to date, so you certainly have most of the information covered there. We also have a Medium where we explain more about like the origin and the mechanisms around looping. We also have some articles covering like the let's say the high level of the functioning of the protocol and looping. We also have like some research on why trading, for example, rETH USDC is better than trading ETH USD on the perp exchange in centralized finance. Like trading these perps has the biggest liquidity and lowest funding rate that you can find on centralized exchange. So it's super interesting if you want to know more about that. There are some researches there. And I keep the two most important ones from the end. Obviously, if you want to be kept up to date with the latest news, Twitter is your best friend. And if you need like any personal support or open a ticket for support while using the app, or if you want to ask any question, please join our Discord.
Oh, perfect. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on today's call, and thank you very much for kind of explaining, like I'm five, the principles of looping and how Contango work. And I look very much forward to learning more about the protocol in the weeks to come.
Awesome. Thanks for the invite.
Excellent. Well, we'll transition a little bit to the just the regular Rocket Pool community call. It might be a very short one today. I don't know, Mav, if you're still on the call with us or not.
Hey, yes, can you hear me right, Ken?
Yeah, hear you loud and clear. I think you'd mentioned to me that it's going to be a short call because Langers is taking a well-deserved family holiday this week. But are there any things that we want to cover with the time that we have remaining?
Yeah, that's right. No Langers this week. We'll get him back on next week to go through the next bi-weekly update, so that should be good. For now, though, I don't think there's too many pressing things to cover, and we can probably cut it short. Next week's call, still TBC on a guest, and a time for that, so keep an eye out. Should probably shout out DevCon again. So not long to go now. It'd be great to see people in Bangkok.
Yeah, definitely. I know I'm looking forward to it. Mav, you said the team's confirmed. That's correct. They're all going to be there.
Yes, indeed, we will all be there. Actually, sorry, asterisks. Fornax to be confirmed. Everyone else, we have flights, hotels, and tickets, so we'll all be there.
All right. Well, certainly, I hope Fornex gets the opportunity to go. I know it's certainly probably one of the the longest travel distances from where he is to where DevCon's going to be. So I certainly understand if that's just not feasible in there, but I'm looking forward to it. For those in the community, there is a conferences channel, and if you look, it's always hard to find the subthreads, but if you join the conferences channel and then click the little thread button up on the top of your Discord screen, you'll see there's actually a thread for DevCon 2024. We're trying to post any side events or meetups that's in there, just as well as any other logistics about the event. So I definitely encourage you, if you are a Rocket Pool community member and are going to be at DevCon, come in there, drop a message, and just kind of keep your eye on that channel to see what's happening, especially during the days right before and during DevCon.
There's
All
probably.
right, man.
Sorry, I just realized there's probably a few governance things we should shout out. Mostly just essentially what is the front page of the DAO Governance Forum. If you head over there, especially the RPIP 62 tokenomics rework prelude. If you head in there and scroll up a little bit, there is an RPIP 62 sentiment poll from Halululu. So I would recommend you go and have your say. Although the 42 votes so far, 100% are in favour of moving to a vote. But regardless, still probably a good idea to get involved. I guess the fact that everyone is in agreement just goes to show the amount of work that's put in before we get to this stage in the governance process. Langers also shared 3 days ago up at 63 on the Houston hotfix. I believe some progress has been made on that since the last community call. The last I saw it was live on testnet. So progress being made there.
Yeah, and the audits are underway, correct? I believe they were supposed to start today, maybe?
Yeah, that's right, this week. Yeah, we've already got some questions coming back from Sigma Prime, so yes, that's well underway. And then probably the last government's thing to call out was there was a little bit of additional discussion on the Bloxroute validator gateway thread.
Excellent. Well, yeah, those are certainly important things, and I definitely encourage you to take a look at both our pips. There are 62 most definitely vote in the sentiment poll as that's making its way forward. And then certainly I think it's worth educating yourself a little bit about the contents of the hotfix. That's our pip 63 and kind of what it involves. And I know Langers was definitely trying to target and shoot for audits complete and I guess testnet deployment and perhaps even adoption of 63 before DevCon, and so that's about a 60-day time horizon. So, certainly it's all dependent upon successful completion of those steps, the audits and the DevNet and testnet testing. But looks like it's on track for pre-DevCon there. So, looks like pretty exciting times for Rocket Pool coming up here in the next 12 months or so.
Yes, on track so far. So far, so good.
Excellent. Well, Mav, are there any other things? If not, I say we cut this call a little short this week.
Yeah, I think that'll do it. As always, trading, if anyone has any questions. And yeah, we'll see you next week then, Ken.
All right, looking forward to it. Be glad to chat with everybody in trading, and in the meantime, catch up on your latest episodes of Rocket Fuel between here and there. All right, I'm going to sign off. Good chatting with everyone.
Thanks, everyone.